I built a fully functional Angry Birds clone in the Godot game engine using AI, and I pulled it off with exactly 6 prompts. Today, I'm gonna show you my exact workflow. By the end of this video, you'll know how to connect Claude Code to the Godot MCP, generate 2D game assets from thin air, and force an AI to debug its own broken physics until you have a playable game. We needed a solid plan before writing a single line of code. I opened up Gemini and asked it to act as my lead game designer. I told it to describe the iconic bird characters from the original Angry Birds so we could generate 2D art for them. It handed me the perfect prompt requirements document outlining the physical traits, colors, and vibes for every single bird on the roster. I took those Gemini descriptions and dropped them straight into Sprite Sheets AI.com. This is a custom tool I built that takes character prompts and bulk animates them into ready-to-use assets. I had it generate a looping flying animation for every bird. I downloaded the organized zip file and dropped it right into my empty Godot project. No manual drawing, no frame-by-frame headache, just massive time savings. Connecting AI to your game engine can be a nightmare if you don't know the exact terminal commands. First, you have to clone the Godot MCP repository. Open your terminal, run git clone with the repo URL, then cd into the Godot-MCP directory. Run npm install, and finally npm run build. Now your MCP server is alive on your machine. But getting Claude Code to actually talk to it is where everyone gets stuck. Here is the golden nugget. You have to run a specific command inside your Godot project folder to bridge them. Type Claude MCP add Godot --scope project --node, followed by the absolute path to your Godot MCP/build/index.js file. You must do this for every new Godot project you start with Claude Code. Otherwise, the AI will completely hallucinate your code base. I hit Claude with prompt number 1. Create an Angry Birds clone using the Godot MCP. Review the sprite sheets, set up the game foundation, and use a single frame for the idle animation. Claude generated the base, but it was a mess. I tested the game and the birds were static while they were in queue, which is what we wanted. But during the flight, the birds were also static instead of using the flight animation we created. The birds also seemed to be glitching out in midair. Probably the biggest issue with this first build was that the pigs' forts immediately crumbled to the ground as soon as the level loaded. Also, none of the special moves for the birds were working. I communicated all of this to Claude with prompt number 2. I told it to fix the flying animations in the air, stop the forts from crumbling, and implement special abilities for each bird with appropriate particle effects. The game started looking better, but I ran into new issues. The blocks for the pig forts were still not starting on the ground, causing them to fall apart when they became active. The game wasn't full screen, the bomb and egg explosion animations weren't showing or causing damage, and the pigs weren't sensitive enough to bird impacts. I threw prompt number 3 at Claude to fix these physics and display issues. I told it to make sure the blocks were stacked starting on the 0 axis with proper floor collision. Make the game full screen, fix the bomb and egg drop animations, and calculate speed to impact to identify the correct damage dealt to the pigs. I tested the game again. The visual effects were improving, but our blocks continued to fall upon activating. I also noticed the heavier birds had a different flight trajectory, making them drop too early. I fired off prompt number 4. I instructed Claude to ensure all birds had similar flight trajectories instead of making some heavier than others. For the physics bug, I also told Claude we were still having issues with the forts. I told it the blocks were slipping down to the lower part of the collision box, and they needed to start clipped strictly to the top of the floor collision shape to avoid falling through. I tested the build, still falling through. It was time to pivot and step in as the senior dev. I realized the AI was either detecting collision on the dirt layer instead of the grass, or it was only adding the collision shape to the center point of the blocks and not accounting for all the edges. I gave Claude prompt number 5, explaining my exact theory and forcing it to find the issue and fix it so the blocks would stay on the grass layer. Boom, it finally clicked. The structure stayed completely solid on the grass. Everything worked perfectly. It turns out that the collision shapes were only in the center part of the blocks. So just keep that in mind if you run into a similar issue. With the core loop completely stable, I wanted this to feel like a real finished game. I dropped prompt number 6. I told Claude to make sure we were looping through the bird animation frames on the sprite sheets for all 4 frames throughout the game. I did this because I wanted to avoid any confusion from Claude with keeping the birds static or animated. I could have added several more animations animations, but it was hardly noticeable, so I decided to leave it with a single animation for the game. I also requested 5 brand new levels with different complexities. Finally, I told it to optimize the flight trajectories, increasing the launch distance for all birds since some of them still couldn't reach the other side of the screen, and slightly slowing down the trajectory speed because I felt like the speed was faster than the real Angry Birds game. So here it is. Check out all the details we were able to get in such a short time. The red bird doesn't do much, same as the real game, but Claude gave it this shockwave ability. I can't remember if that was an actual feature in the original game, but it's cool. The blue bird split into 3 birds if you click while they're in flight. The yellow bird will zoom through its path depending at which point of its arc you click during flight. The white bird drops an egg bomb. Now the black bomb bird, I do have to admit, is way overpowered. If it lands on target or gets anywhere near the target, you basically win the round. And I'm not gonna lie, that was surprisingly fun to use. I actually had to purposely throw the black bird out of bounds to test the boomerang so I could avoid winning on accident. And yes, the boomerang worked as well. By the way, guys, we are so close to this year's goal of 1 million subscribers. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to help me get there. And if you want to watch me build Super Smash Bros from scratch using anti-gravity and Claude Code, click on this video right here.